Marriage is like due to the fact Henry is someone who can journey in time. Henry labels it as an incapacity because it's no longer in his control and it makes his life very hard at any given second. He can randomly teleport to the past and, whenever he does, his garments continue to be in the prevailing, so he's usually bare. He explains that he has gotten very good at stealing, fighting and walking because whilst you show up in random locations, completely naked humans don't respond thoroughly. Henry explains that once in a while he's most effective, gone for a couple of minutes before he returns to the prevailing, but other times he's long past for weeks and months, and he has to survive in a very one-of-a-kind time. Claire explains that she's gotten used to Henry disappearing by way of now. She says that she hears a coffee mug drop or a faucet jogging too long and she knows it has took place. Then she starts ready for Henry to return and worries for his safety. The interviewer asks the two while they first met, and each of them smile and reply that it is complicated. Flashback to whilst CLA is 2 decades antique and Henry is 28. Claire arrives at a library to select up a ebook and Henry works there. The two meet and Claire recognizes Henry, but Henry doesn't apprehend her. She tells him that he has a delivery mark on his left foot and a SC on his brow. She says that she has regarded him for over 14 years and it is crazy to face here and watch him searching at her like a stranger. She adds that this is the youngest she's ever seen him. Henry realizes that some older model of him came back in time and met CLA, and that's how she is aware of him. The two agree to fulfill for dinner. Henry comes home and cleans his vicinity in case he gets lucky. After dinner, he stashes all the matters left in the back of, by way of every other female, in a drawer. Then Henry sees a puddle of blood on the toilet floor. However, earlier than he can easy it, it's long gone. Subsequent, Henry shows up to dinner and CLA shows him a list of all of the dates while she's met Henry's destiny self in the beyond. He is as harassed as that last sentence. Henry asks what is the oldest that CLA has visible him, and he or she says that the oldest model of him that she met became 40. Henry is going quiet and CLA implores him to invite any questions he desires. Henry asks why his destiny self would go to her so often, and Claire replies that she is his future spouse. Henry is greatly surprised and stressful upon hearing this. However, Claire empathizes due to the fact she's acknowledged this, given that she turned into young, but he is only just finding out. Henry asks Claire how she first met him and Claire launches into the story. Flashback to while CLA is 6 years old and is gambling in the desolate tract. She hears a man throwing up inside the woods. It's a much older Henry. Turing returned from the future. Henry asks CLA to bring him a few clothes and she steals a number of her father's. Henry tells CLA that he is a time visitor and she starts off evolved, asking him plenty of questions. She asks him if he has a spouse within the destiny and he replies that he does. She asks what her name is and he replies that her call is also Claire. CLA asks him if he has ever seen dinosaurs and he replies that he, broadly speaking, only travels within the time span of his own lifestyles. Henry tells CLA that he wishes her to hold a few clothes hidden beneath a rock for him due to the fact he is going to come back lower back right here a gaggle of times. Claire asks why he cannot convey his very own clothes and he replies that those are the policies. She asks who taught him the policies and he tentatively replies that all over again. Tourist did. He launches into the story. Flashback to while Henry is 7 years old and touring a museum with his parents. He goes domestic travels again in time a few hours, and arrives on the museum again 28 to 12 months antique. Henry is gift at the museum and he offers 7-year antique Henry some clothes. He tells 7-year vintage Henry that he is going to be education him for time journey now. He explains to 7 to 12 months old Henry that he will continually feel ill before and after he travels in time. He's going to always be hungry whilst he travels and could constantly be bare. He may not always go back to his present right away. From time to time he's going to travel to all over again. First he can also travel to the destiny, however, that not often occurs. 7-year vintage Henry asks if there are plenty of time vacationers, and 28-year antique Henry tentatively replies, sure. Both Henrys go back to their respective presents. 28-year-old Henry returns to 3 hours before his date with 20-year-old CLA and beats up a man to scouse borrow his healthy and plant life. Subsequent Henry and Claire come to his condo after dinner, and Henry finds a toddler tooth lying on the floor. Because the two proceed to make out, CLA notices the teeth and Henry explains that every part of him time travels from his toenail clippings to his blood and enamel. This tooth will soon return underneath the pillow of a younger Henry if he ever sees blood randomly in his area, and it disappears away that somewhere in some future or past he is gotten extraordinarily hurt. Claire makes out with Henry vigorously because she's never met him. This younger earlier than and the older Henry never permit her touch him in a while. She finds the stuff left in the back of by the opposite girl at Henry's condo and receives. Disenchanted Henry explains that he has a female friend and CLA is enraged. Henry simply testifies at pronouncing that she's regarded she might be his wife for some time, but he's in no way even met her. Claire gets angry over the fact that he may want to have at least sighted his girlfriend earlier than they made out, and Henry smugly replies that if he did that he would not have were given to make out along with her. Fair factor. Claire gets angry and leaves. In the meantime, a 36 to 12 months vintage Henry disappears in the front of 6-12 months vintage CLA and arrives outdoor the apartment in which the two are fighting. He follows the indignant 20-year antique CLA to a bar. CLA tells him that his 28 to 12 months old self is a douche and this isn't the man that she's known and waited for all these years. 36-year-old Henry replies that he's only a scared little boy who's living a terrified life. Claire asks how did this douche grow to be the gentleman sitting in the front of her, and 36-year vintage Henry replies that similar to young CLA shaped herself round him, this Henry will shape himself round her. He convinces CLA to give 28-year antique Henry a chance. The two Henrys meet outdoor. Old Henry tells younger Henry to get his act collectively, and younger Henry is sarcastic and dismissive. 36 to 12 months vintage Henry returns to his present and sleeps with a 28-year-old CLA. Meanwhile, 28-year-old Henry hears someone time travel in a nearby alleyway and is stunned to find simply his toes. Mendacity. They're together with his beginning mark at the left foot. He is terrified. Subsequent CLA speaks to the interviewer and she or he explains that there are some moments in Henry's life that he continues repeatedly journeying lower back to. Henry explains that the more tremendous a time is in his lifestyles, the much more likely he is to visit it time and again. Claire says that there's one particular time in his lifestyles that each time he visits it, she can always tell by means of the appearance on his face. Flashback to while Henry is 8 years vintage and stepping into a car with his mother on Christmas as he and his mother journey. 88-year vintage Henry notices that there are Many variations of him present all round. Meaning this is a moment that Henry travels again to often a vehicle crashes into Henry's mom's car and causes a metallic sheet from the car in front to head through their windshield and decapitate his mom. 8-year vintage Henry survives through time traveling to a few minutes before the incident, and he sees it appear once more. From the out of doors, all the different variations of Henry watch on subsequent 31-year-old Henry plays checkers with a 6-year vintage Claire, and she or he asks him questions as normal. She asks him what his dad and mom do, and he replies that his dad is a violinist and his mother changed into a singer. CLA asks why he makes use of became for his mother, and he simply says he misspoke. CLA says he suddenly seems unhappy and asks why this is. So Henry says that being sad isn't a awful thing, because whilst you find out why people are unhappy, you then discover who they absolutely are. Claire maintains to inquire why he is unhappy, and Henry says that he's going to tell her in the future, whilst a inexperienced man serves her a banana latte in the front of Lake Ko. CLA thinks he is just making things up. 20 to 12 months old CLA and 28-year vintage Henry are going on their 2D date, and CLA remains very a lot mad at him. She asks him why he simply accepts the future and would not attempt to trade it, and he replies that he's tried. However, it does not. Paintings. Claire angrily says that she is not going to just accept that. Due to the fact she makes her personal destiny, she receives off at a random teach station to show her point. However, Henry replies that this is the station they had been intended to get off at inside the first area. He says that this is the way it works. The destiny is fixed, it's now not forced on them, but it is fixed by the selections that they make. They'll make the decisions they're supposed to make to prove her point. Again, Claire comes to a decision to visit a exclusive cafe from the only that Henry became going to take her to as the two sit inside the cafe. A person with green face paint on serves Claire a banana latte. She seems to her left and sees a drawing of Lake Ko. She realizes she didn't trade the destiny by means of selecting this cafe. She asks Henry to inform her what makes him sad. Henry goes clean. CLA asks why the older Henry stated that his mother became a sin.